I don't typically do videos like this, but sometimes I feel morally obligated to. So back at the beginning of February, I was approached by Hero Wars. This was a gacha game that I've never actually played. This was a game that I had heard of. It's something that I never invested anything into researching because it just, honestly, from first glance, it wasn't something that particularly stood out to me as something that I would be interested in playing. And I will admit, after playing it for approximately 20, maybe 25 hours so far, it's not a bad game. At the beginning of February, I was actually reached out to by the studio. They offered me a set amount of money to do a 60 to 90 second pre-roll for the game. I do pre-rolls all the time for this channel, for my other channel. Typically, I work with companies that allow me to have the freedom to say what I want and to include the footage that I want. If a company tells me, here are a list of things we want you to say, I will immediately reject it. If they say, here is a list of topics we want you to cover, then that opens avenues for discussion. I do not want to be told that I have to say certain things. I like to phrase things how I want. I like to be genuine and honest in my impressions, in the things that I'm trying to bring to your guys' attention. Whether they're offering me $500 or $5,000, it is an immediate rejection if I'm unable to have that level of freedom. So I received a PDF. I'm not going to go ahead and include the email. I'm not going to include the PDF here because I don't want to leave myself open for legal action. Plus, I think it's kind of rude to show personal emails between people or studios, very unprofessional. But they outlined a very specific scene. They provided you with an exact script. You had no freedom whatsoever to say anything you wanted, and then they went ahead and they included 2 different videos from 2 different creators as examples. Now, the script states that I am required to use my own footage for the intro, and then I'm supposed to say, what are you doing in my video? Get back to where you came from. And then one of the characters goes, hey, what about my world?
Hey, what about my world?
To which I respond with, what's wrong with it? Are you from a childish game? To which he responds with, that's not true. Hero Wars has vibrant graphics, cool gameplay, and user-friendly interface.
That is not true. Hero Wars has vibrant graphics, cool gameplay, and a user-friendly interface.
And then I'm supposed to say, all right, then let's give it a try. And then he goes, yeah, tell them more about it.
Yeah, tell them more about it.
Then they listed a bunch of different talking points. I went through, I read them, and I thought to myself, you know what? I don't really want to use this script, but I can take several of those talking points and rephrase them, rewrite them into something that's more my style. It actually seems genuine. And after a little bit of back and forth, they acquiesced to my request because I stated I can't do this. There's no way anyone is going to genuinely take me serious. They also wanted me to make sure I do not say anything abusive, that I don't make jokes, that I do not swear or insult anything or anyone, especially their company, that I don't include any elements that refer to politics, any elements that refer to religion, any elements that refer to sex, any elements that refer to any kind of discrimination. I'm not allowed to say that the game is pay to win. I'm not allowed to compare this game to any other competitors, or I'm not even allowed to mention other competitors for that matter. I'm not allowed to compare this game with popular movies or popular actors or any kind of well-known brands at all. My response was that I can definitely use real footage, because that's one of the things they wanted me to use real footage of me captured playing the game with a script in my own style. Again, after a bit of back and forth, they agreed to allow me to do this. Now, this was on February 4th, and by the time they successfully agreed to this, it was February 10th. I told them explicitly, because there was a deadline here for the 19th of February, that I was going on a vacation to Naples, Florida on February 16th. I could have this pre-roll done. I could have everything sent to them by the 10th. And I did. And then On the 16th of February, the day that I was leaving for my flight at like 6 in the morning, they decide, you know what? We've reviewed your footage. We agreed earlier that we would have your video processed within a couple day period in case we needed there to be alterations made to the pre-roll, so you can have it done ready by the 16th, so you don't invest hours of your time recording and editing and implementing this into another video, because that would be a waste of my time. So on the 16th, they send me an email and they state there are certain things that need to be removed and added. On the one hand, they didn't want me to have the freedom to say what I wanted. They didn't want me to remove the intro. They weren't happy with the footage that I captured. I will note, by the way, just before I go any further, I spent about 10, maybe 12 hours obtaining footage because they required I get to a certain point through it so it didn't look like I just downloaded the game and played it for like 20 minutes purely for an advertisement. So to get to the point that they required me to get to in that couple day period, I spent an exorbitant amount of money, I think well over $100, because they were promising me almost $1,000 for the successful integration of this pre-roll in a video. And they promised that they would have this back to me a couple days after I sent it to them on the 10th. So I figured I would make back the investment that I put into it, and the profit would still be 8-9 times what I spent. That did not turn out to be the case because they required me to edit a lot of the video. They wanted me to add bits of the game into it that made the game seem like it was something that it wasn't. They wanted me to say things that made it seem like I supported aspects of the game that I did not support. I always state my honest thoughts and opinions when covering games. I am blunt and I do not hide anything. Admittedly, I might miss things, but that's just because I didn't personally experience them. But the things that they wanted me to say were things that were just not true. They wanted me to make alterations that were lies, and they were paying me to make these alterations. So in essence here, they were willing to pay me roughly $1,000 to lie to my viewers, to you guys, and convince you that this game is something that it isn't. And then, after investing over $100 to get to the point that they wanted me to get to, after they had promised they would review this integration a couple days after I sent it to them on the 10th, because they knew I would not be home on the 16th through the 22nd of February, therefore I wouldn't be able to make alterations to it. After making that promise, they decided to, the day I left, hours after I'd left, because this was sent to me sometime in the afternoon, tell me that all of these alterations needed to be made. I couldn't do them. The deadline was the 19th. I couldn't make the deadline. I couldn't post this pre-roll, which means that I wasted over $100 on this game and was subsequently lied to with the additive that they wanted me to lie to you as well. Yeah, the dedicated video that I do in this game is not going to be positive. Now again, I do not talk about these things very often because typically I reject studios that reach out to me. I get upwards of 50 different sponsorship requests per month on the combination of this channel and my other channel, and I'm very picky with what I choose. I choose maybe 1 or 2 per month out of the plethora of studios that are reaching out to me, because the vast majority admittedly don't want to give you that level of freedom that I personally want and require. But this was a whole, oh man. Now admittedly, I probably shouldn't have trusted them, but I thought they were genuine, and it turns out they were not. And interestingly, the worst part of all of this is, even after abusing me like that, they reached out to me for a March campaign, wanting me to do a dedicated pre-roll like this for March as well. Like, seriously? Now I will have a video dedicated to Hero Wars up in the next probably like week or 2 for those of you that are interested in my thoughts on the game. I'll also include a little bit of the story as well for a bit of context, but if Hero Wars isn't your thing, no problem. I got you covered with 2 different videos on screen right now. One featuring a list of every gacha game coming this month. The other, a gacha game that I had a lot of fun in recently that was not Hero Wars.